The office building on Tehran Row stood like a glass monument to ambition, its 40 floors housing dreams packaged in quarterly reports. Minji pressed her palm against the elevator's cold metal wall, watching the numbers climb. 25 years old, 3 months into her first real job as a junior architect, and already she felt the weight of invisible expectations crushing her shoulders. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind. Find someone stable, someone successful, someone who can give you the life I couldn't. The doors opened on the 32nd floor. Through the glass walls of the conference room, she saw him, Director Kang Junho, reviewing blueprints with that focused intensity that made junior employees scatter like sparrows. 52 years old, silver threading through his black hair, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up, and for a moment their eyes met. Minji felt something flutter in her chest, then immediately crushed it. Ridiculous. He was a director. She was nobody. What she didn't know was that Junho's heart had stuttered too. Not because of her youth or her beauty, though she was lovely in that unaware way, with her hair pulled back and her sensible flats, but because when she'd presented her design concept last week, she'd spoken about buildings the way he used to, before promotions and politics had dulled his passion. She talked about spaces that could hold people's happiest memories. He hadn't heard anyone speak like that in 20 years. Junho had been married once, divorced for 6 years now. His ex-wife had left him for someone younger, someone who remembered to come home for dinner, someone who could still laugh without calculating the social cost. He'd built walls after that, brick by careful brick, telling himself that work was enough, that purpose could substitute for connection. Then Minji had walked into that presentation with her nervous hands and her brilliant ideas, and he'd felt those walls crack. But he knew the world. He knew what people would say, what they were probably already saying. Old man, predator, using his position. He'd seen it happen to others, the whispers that destroyed careers and reputations. So he did something nobody expected. He started avoiding her. Minji noticed. How could she not? Director Kang stopped attending design meetings she was in. He routed her project emails through other seniors. When they passed in hallways, he looked away. She told herself it didn't matter, that she'd imagined that moment of connection. But late at night, lying in her cramped studio apartment, she felt the sting of rejection she couldn't even name. He thinks I'm incompetent, she told her friend Sujin over soju one evening, the city lights blurring beyond the bar window. I worked so hard on that community center design, and he won't even look at it. Sujin, 3 years older and 3 times more cynical, shook her head. Or maybe he's protecting you. You know how it is. A director pays too much attention to a young female employee. HR gets involved. Rumors start. Careers end. The thought hadn't occurred to Minji. Protection. From what? From whom? From himself. 3 weeks later, the firm landed its biggest project in a decade, a cultural complex in Busan that would define the company's future. The lead architect position was open. Everyone expected Junho to take it. Instead, at the morning meeting, he did something that made the entire room go silent. I'm recommending Minji Lee as co-lead, working directly with me. The silence was sharp enough to cut. Minji felt 20 pairs of eyes turn toward her, felt the weight of disbelief, resentment, suspicion. Her face burned. She wanted to disappear. She's too junior, someone muttered. Junho's voice remained steady. She's the most talented designer we have. Look at her portfolio. Look at her instincts. This project needs fresh vision, not recycled concepts. He paused, then added, If anyone has concerns about my professional judgment, you can discuss them with me privately. After the meeting, Minji cornered him in his office. Why did you do that? He looked at her and for the first time in weeks, didn't look away. Because you deserve it. Because your work is exceptional. Because I've spent 6 years playing it safe and I'm tired of it. People will talk. They already are. They will regardless of what I do, so I might as well do the right thing. Is this the right thing? Her voice was quieter now, and the question held more than one meaning. Junho removed his glasses, rubbed the bridge of his nose. I don't know. I know that avoiding you felt like cowardice. I know that denying you this opportunity because I'm afraid of what people think is wrong. Beyond that, he smiled, but it was tired. I'm figuring it out. They worked together on the Busan project for 3 months. Late nights in the office, blueprints spread across every surface, arguing about load-bearing walls and natural light, and the way a building could make someone feel welcomed or excluded. Minji learned that Junho took his coffee black, that he had a daughter studying abroad who rarely called, that he'd wanted to be a poet before architecture claimed him. Junho learned that Minji supported her mother who cleaned offices at night, that she'd put herself through university on scholarships, that she sketched buildings on napkins when she thought no one was watching. The rumors started exactly as expected. The whispers, the knowing looks. Someone wrote a complaint to HR, anonymous of course, suggesting impropriety. Junho was called into a meeting with the company president. He came back tight-lipped, but his hand trembled slightly as he poured water from the cooler. "What did they say?" Minji asked. "That I need to be careful, that the appearance of favoritism can be as damaging as the reality, that there are protocols." He set down the cup without drinking. "They asked if I was involved with you. Romantically." Minji's throat went dry. "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That I respect you professionally, that I admire your work, that I've done nothing inappropriate." He finally looked at her, and his eyes held something raw. "I didn't tell them that I think about you constantly, that I look for you in every room, that I'm terrified I've ruined your career before it started because I was too selfish to keep my distance." The confession hung between them like suspended breath. "I'm 25, Minji said slowly. "You're 52. My mother would be horrified. Your colleagues think you're taking advantage of me. Society has a script for this story, and it doesn't end well. I know. I could be your daughter. You're not. People will always judge. Yes." Minji stepped closer. "I don't care." Junho's composure cracked. "You should. Your whole life is ahead of you. You could be with someone your own age, someone who what? Someone who doesn't see me? Someone I have to pretend with?" Her voice rose. "Do you know what it's like to be invisible? My whole life, I've been the scholarship kid, the one who didn't fit, the one whose clothes were never quite right. Then you looked at my work and you actually saw something. You saw me." "That's not enough," Junho said roughly. "Attraction, admiration, they're not enough to build something real. The world will make this so hard for you." "Then let me choose the hard thing. I'm not a child. I know what I'm risking." She reached out, tentative, and touched his hand. "What are you risking?" He turned his palm up, their fingers interlacing. "Everything I've carefully controlled. My reputation, my comfortable loneliness, the story I've told myself about how my life would go from here." "Sounds terrifying." "It is." "Good," Minji said. "I don't want easy. I want real." The Busan project launched to critical acclaim. Minji's designs were featured in architectural magazines. At the unveiling ceremony, Junho stood beside her, professional and proud, and when reporters asked about their collaboration, he spoke only of her talent. But after, when the crowds had dispersed and they stood together on the building's rooftop terrace watching the sunset paint the ocean gold, he took her hand. "People are watching," she murmured. "Let them. Your ex-wife will hear about it. Your daughter." "My daughter called yesterday. She said she saw your interview online and that you seem brilliant. She said she hopes I'm smart enough not to screw it up." Minji laughed, surprised. "She said that?" "She also said her mother told her that I was always too afraid to really live, that I confused success with happiness. She said maybe I'm finally learning the difference." They stood in comfortable silence, the evening breeze carrying the salt smell of the sea. "I still don't have answers," Junho said finally. "I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be with someone again. And I'm terrified that one day you'll wake up and realize you've wasted your youth on someone who's already lived half his life." Minji squeezed his hand. "You know what I learned from architecture? Buildings don't fail because they're old or new. They fail when the foundation isn't solid, when the design doesn't account for stress and weight and time." She turned to face him. "So we build carefully. We account for the pressure. We make sure the foundation can hold what we're trying to create." And if it can't, then we reinforce it. Together. 6 months later, Minji's mother visited Seoul. Junho invited her to dinner at his apartment, not the sterile showcase he'd maintained during his marriage, but the lived-in space he'd been building, with Minji's sketches on the walls and books piled on every surface. Her mother was a small woman with tired eyes and hands roughened by work. She studied Junho with the intensity of someone who'd learned to assess character quickly. "You're older than me," she said bluntly. "Yes. People must talk." "They do." "And my daughter? What happens to her when they talk?" Junho met her gaze steadily. "She handles it with more grace than I do. She's stronger than both of us." Minji's mother turned to her daughter. "You're happy. Truly?" "Yes, Mom. Not because he can provide? Not because he has status? I provide for myself. I always have." Minji's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm happy because he sees who I am, because we build something together that neither of us could build alone. Because when I'm with him, I'm more myself than I've ever been." Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "Love isn't about age. I learned that working night shifts, watching all kinds of couples, young, old, everything between. Love is about respect, about seeing each other clearly." She looked at Junho. "You see my daughter clearly? Every day more clearly. Then that's enough." The architecture firm promoted Minji to senior designer the following year, on merit. As 3 independent reviews confirmed, though the whispers never entirely stopped. Junho stepped back from some projects to avoid the appearance of favoritism, which meant late nights apart, projects that took one or both of them to different cities. It was hard. Love across an age gap didn't erase the complications. It just made them worth navigating. On Minji's 27th birthday, they stood together in an apartment they designed themselves. Open spaces, natural light, walls that could be moved as life changed. Junho gave her a small box. Inside was a key. "To what?" she asked. "To here, to us, to the life we're building." He took a breath. "I know I'm supposed to have all the answers because I'm older, but I don't. I just know that every structure needs a foundation. And you're mine." Minji kissed him, and it tasted like possibility. People still talked, of course. They always would. At office gatherings, Minji sometimes caught the sidelong glances, heard the whispered speculation. Was it real? Was she after his money? Was he having a crisis? The world had its narratives and refused to let them go. But in the quiet moments, morning coffee while reviewing blueprints, late evenings on the balcony watching the city lights, the simple, ordinary intimacy of 2 people building a life, none of that mattered. They'd chosen the hard thing. They'd chosen real. And that, in the end, was what nobody believed. Not that a 52-year-old man could win over a 25-year-old woman with manipulation or money or power, but that he could do it by being genuine, by seeing her, by being willing to risk everything for something authentic, by choosing, finally, to live instead of just exist. The city spread before them, infinite with lights and possibility, and they stood together at the window they'd designed. Not too large, not too small, just right for 2 people to stand side by side and watch the world turn, together.